Welcome to another Cardano update. Like always, make sure to check out our YouTube memberships and our Patreon if you want access to all of our charts and if you want access to our daily Discord updates. And I hope you enjoyed this video. So in this video, I will talk about the weekly chart and I will talk about 3 different scenarios. First, I want you to completely forget about the Elliott wave count and I only want you to focus on the structure that we have on the chart right now. Now, as I have said many times, the 1-2 setup that we had in the previous cycle looks very similar to the 1-2 setup that we had right here. I think that's pretty clear now. And if we look at what happened after that 1-2 setup, we had a drop. However, in this cycle, the drop did not happen because this was a pandemic drop. So I think it's safe to say that the price would have continued going up here if it weren't for the pandemic. So let's just assume, the price went up and let's just ignore this move down here. This means that right now we should be in a 1-2 setup, which is similar to the 1-2 setup that we had right here. Now I know in my previous videos I was comparing this 1-2 setup to the 1-2 setup that we have right now. However, maybe it's safe to say that we are actually down here instead of actually up here. Now, from a 4-year cycle point of view, in the previous cycle exactly 4 years ago, Cardano was up here. Right now, however, we are at let's say about 73 cents. So which one is it? Where are we right now? Well, at least judging by the structure, we are still down here, and let me explain why. If you look at the RSI, as you can see, the RSI right here, for example, formed a U on this first wave move to the upside, and what do you know, in this 1-2 setup we also formed a U, and then look after that what happened. We dropped below the weekly moving average and we stayed below there for some time. The price also, dropped quite a lot, and then we started going up just like we did right here. So here we went below the moving average on the weekly chart, we then got back above it after some time, and then we had a huge pump to the upside on the price and on the RSI. And like I said, if you ignore this drop right here and if you look at the RSI went from being at these lows right here at about 35 to being overbought on the weekly. So as you can see in the second wave move right here in this 1-2 setup, the RSI dropped to about, about 36. And in this cycle, in the second wave move to the downside, the lowest the RSI went to was at about 36. Is that a coincidence? Well, maybe, but let's look at what happened after that. Like I said, ignore the drop right here and look at where the RSI went to after, it got to 36 right here. It bounced and like I said, the RSI, as you can see, went to the overbought territory and it went to about 82. In this cycle, the exact same thing. We bounced and look at that. The RSI went to about 85 right now in this cycle. And what happened in the previous cycle after we got to the 82 RSI level? We had a huge drop. Where did the RSI drop to? It dropped to an RSI level of about 49. What do you know, in this drop, as you can see, we are exactly at the RSI of about 49. Is that a coincidence? Well, maybe it is, who knows? But if things are just repeating and if the structure is repeating but not the Elliott wave count, this means that we are about to go sideways for some time, and that's not bearish. But also, I was talking about this the other day, we had a cross on the bull market support band right here. And as you can see, the red line went above the green line, and this was one of the only times when Cardano did not really drop after a cross on the bull market support band. And of course, from the 4-year cycle point of view, it would not make sense for us to be here. But like I said, if you ignore the 4-year cycle point of view and you just look at Bitcoin dominance and say, hey, well, in the previous cycle, Bitcoin dominance was going down in February. Right now, it just hit a new cycle high. So things are different, but I don't think that's bearish. Keep in mind, we are still in QT, we are not in QE. And in the cycle before this cycle, we were already in QE when we had this move. So maybe the market is just waiting for something to happen, and then we can finally get a bounce. And like I said, right here, for example, we have this trend line right here. As you can see, the trend line has 4 touch points, and it's the exact same thing in the previous cycle. 1, 2, 3, 4, we got rejected the 4th time, and then when we tested it for the 5th time, that's when we got above it. So maybe after we get done with the move right here, that's when we finally get above the trend line, and that puts us at about, the previous all-time highs. And that will only happen if Bitcoin dominance drops. And like I said, Bitcoin dominance should start dropping when QE starts. Now, if it does not start, then, there is potential for us to get an altcoin season if QE doesn't start. Keep in mind, in the previous cycle, before the 2021 cycle, which is the 2017 cycle, if you look at the Dogecoin chart and you add in the total assets charts, let me put that on the chart actually, total assets, and yep, so as you can see in the previous cycle before the 2021 cycle, we were not in QE and the altcoin season still happened, but it happened at the end of February of the post-halving year. Well, actually, I think this was actually the end of March of the post-halving year. So yeah, I'm not saying that this will happen again, but you have to keep in mind, in 2017, we did not need QE for an altcoin season, it just happened. In the previous cycle, yes, we did need QE for that, but in 2017 we did not, so you have to keep an eye on that as well, and I think that's also a very important detail that many people missed for some reason. So if we go any lower right here, then we are most likely not down here. However, if we just test the bull market support band for a couple of weeks and we get a cross, the situation that played out right here could play out again, and if that happens, it would actually make sense. How many weeks did it go sideways here? It went sideways for, let's see, about 10 weeks or so. And what you know, the next Fed meeting is in March, I believe on March 19th or so, which from this point on is in like 6 weeks. So if we just go sideways for like 6 weeks until the Fed meeting and until we hopefully, start QT, it would be just like we did right here. However, like I said, if we drop more, then we are most likely not down here and we are actually, somewhere else. Like I said, the drop that we had right now actually looks very similar to the pandemic drop because, the price here went down like 70% and during the pandemic it went down like 80%. So there are a bunch of different scenarios that could play out right now, and I think this cycle is just a combination of multiple things that happened in the previous cycle, and I don't think that's bearish. Now, I also want to look at the Bitcoin dominance chart, and I want to show you something on this chart. So yeah, we had a cross on the bull market support band, however, we are about to have another cross, and that's not really great because, you'd already know why. When the green line of the bull market support band goes above the red line, that's when Bitcoin dominance usually goes up, so there is a slight chance that we get another cycle high before March, or even let's say at the beginning of March or so, and then when the Fed, starts QE, that's when we finally get the drop. And if you look at the Cardano chart, Cardano is not looking too great right now, it's just going down, and we have a 1-2 setup here, but this is really nothing to, brag about because it's not doing anything, and honestly, if we go below, let's say the 50% extension, which is at 64.6 cents, it's very likely we get another low in the second wave right here. And if you completely forget about what happened in the previous cycle, and you just focus on the structures that we had in this cycle, this 1-2 setup that failed actually looks very similar to this 1-2 setup, and this 1-2 setup looks very similar to this 1-2 setup. And as you can see, after we, had a huge pump to the upside, we went below the bull market support band, just like we did over here, and we just dropped for multiple months. So I'm not saying that this will happen again for a third time in a row, but it's a possibility that we do the exact same thing. And keep in mind here, when we dropped to this level, this was actually the 0.618 support level of the first wave. Right now we already got to the 0.618 support level, so if we get another low, that would put us at like 38 cents, which is the 0.786 support level, and we don't really want to see this, but it's a possibility that it happens because it already happened 2 times in this cycle. So it's hard to speculate on what might happen, but like I said, what's happening right now is just a combination of what happened in the past and what already happened in this cycle. And you have to be aware of that, and like I said multiple times in my previous videos, we are currently oversold on the daily chart, and this is very bullish. The last time we were oversold on the daily chart was when we were down here at about 28 cents. Right now Cardano is at like 73 cents, so that's still bullish in my opinion. Also right here, when we went down, we actually got to the oversold territory on the daily, so yeah, we could be over here, and if we are, then we might have to just go sideways for some time. Now keep in mind, in this cycle maybe it's going to be different, maybe we can actually get above the bull market support band, and that's what I'm watching right now. If we get above the bull market support band, it's likely that we skip that boring period that happened right here and we just go up. However, if we stay in between the bull market support band or even below it, it's likely that we just do absolutely nothing or even hit another low know before we continue with the third wave of the third wave. So yeah, I still think that my wave count is valid. However, like I said, the structure is doing something else, and as long as we stay above 38.6 cents, we should be fine. I don't really want to see the price drop to that level, but if it needs to happen, then it could happen. And if for some reason Bitcoin dominance wants to get to like 66% by the end of the cycle, well, actually by the end of the Bitcoin dominance pump, then it could get there and it would not be the end of the world. Well, for some people it will be, because people bought Cardano at like $1.30, but if you bought down here when I was telling you to buy and when Bitcoin dominance was pretty much at 60%, then you are fine right now. Even if it dropped to like 40 cents, you are still fine as long as you bought down here. So yeah, I hope you understand what's going on in the market right now, and I hope you don't worry. If you look at the fear and greed index, which is this right here, everybody is fearful right now. It's at 44, and like I said, when everybody is fearful, you should be greedy, and when everybody is greedy, you should be fearful. Right now, the market is in fear, so what do you think you should do? Well, I'm gonna leave that up to you, and I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to check out our YouTube memberships and our Patreon if you want access to all of our charts, and if you want access to our daily Discord updates. Like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.